Hello people.
Okay, just kidding. So, in this video we'll show how to do big data analysis using Microsoft Excel. And in our example we will be analyzing MC5's leak and leak points to see whether the leak points are a good indicator for player skills, so that we can use that indicator for the matchmaking algorithm, right? So for this example we will be going just I created a small outline for this purpose. So first of all we'll retrieve data using Beard. I personally prefer Beard because it is easy to use, quite friendly, quite fast to deal with all those complicated data, and then we'll create a connection with that exported raw data source via ODBS connection using Excel and pivot table, and use Python reporting. That for 1 million rows of data. So there is a general perception that Excel is not good for technique. We show how we can use Excel for big data, and in the delve statements reporting. So okay, let's go one by one. So first we'll retrieve data, and after so the the first one is the first field is the title itself with the plot. Select the whenever I select the title or on the platform, all the events available under that platform get populated. The events dialog, and for my report to deal with leaks, and I know predefined event which is called event, right? And under this event we have the which will be used, for example, league name and league score, which stands actually for the league point, right? And also we want to have data per user. So first of all we'll select the user, right, which is stands for user ID. Then we want to see in which league that user currently is, which is league name. And after that I will be aggregating, I will be calculating the average of league score, right, so that we can compare leagues and league scores, right? So we need to do some aggregation here, which is actually average of leak score. So okay, I won't go in detail with the beard, just not to spend much time on that. So I already have this, so leaks, and I will be preloading that report. So just to get a basic understanding what this report does, the same thing. I mean, just I only spent a short period of time in order for the data not to be really big, just for the illustration, so that we don't wait for a couple of minutes. And after that we press execute, and we can export the CSV file actually, right? Again, you can choose another reporting tool like Python or whatever you would prefer. The most important for this step is in the end, the final outcome should be a CSV file or any file, any raw data that can be used as a source for our ODBS connection, right? So we run this. Let me show you quickly what the data looks like, right? Limiting to 100, pressing execute, and then it will run the report, populate all these fields, return the data, and show the data for our users per each league, and will calculate the average. Actually, this file already I did that report. I'm just now reproducing what I have already done. So this is the final place where we want to land in the end, right, for our analysis. So let's see. I mean, it will take a little bit, I guess. And after we finish running this report, we will end up with another file, with the file which is, I already retrieved that file, for one for GP, another one for iOS. So for this example, let's use this the GP CSV file, which already, as I said, are retrieved from Beard or from any other database system. And let's move on to the next step, which is creating an ODBS connection and configuring that connection. And actually this is the most important, because later on this connection will be used in our Microsoft Excel report and pivot table, pivot chart report, which will be able to use to overcome that 1 million row limitation for Microsoft Excel. So for this purpose, here we go, we already finished the Beard. Okay, just let's see, guys, so how the data looks like. So this is the user ID, this is the league name in which that user currently is for this given period. The average league score, also I calculated maximum and minimum of those league score. Okay, this is just for the illustration, you can ignore those, right? So the most important is actually the average. And after that we export the data, and exporting the data we end up with these kind of files, right? Okay, so we say okay, Beard, thank you. Here we go. Now again, going back to our step-by-step, it's time for ODBase connection. So we ODBase connection file. How we do that? Quite simple. Going into under the control panel of this machine, and under administrative tools, we open administrative tools. There is ODBS data sources, right? Well, whichever you should choose, I guess most likely 64-bit. Well, it depends on your Office version. Most likely you have 64-bit of your Microsoft Office version, otherwise you should select 32-bit. So I'm selecting 46-bit, and here under this ODBS data source administration we'll create a new database driver, and as I said, the database driver will be used for our Microsoft Excel pivot table and pivot chart reporting. Under these options we select the text driver. Why we are selecting text driver? Quite simple, because we are dealing with CSV file, right? This is text limited file, and the driver should be should be appropriate one. In this case, this is Microsoft Access text driver, which deals with, say, it says text files and CSV files, right? Okay, on this machine I don't have Microsoft Access installed, so you don't have to worry about this driver, because if you have any Office software installed on this machine, let's say it may be Microsoft, or let's say Word or Excel, this driver will be most likely installed already, right? So I click finish. Okay, then I need to actually set up the connection configuration. So let's give it a meaningful name, like MC5 leaks, for example. I guess it's okay. Then we'll select the directory, right? The directory where our CSV file is located. So it is peered files, peered data, MC5, I guess. Excel for big data, I guess. Yes, exactly. So I already preloaded those files there, so I'm selecting this folder, right? Please note that I select only the folder where those CSV file, where those files serving for us as actual databases are located. We don't have to specify any files. Later on, for our next example, when we will be using also PAU report, we will be using we will be joining a couple of tables together. So this is quite a powerful technique. So we need only to specify the folder, and later on within our the SQL configuration within Excel, we can also do some cross joins, inner joins, left joins, etc., so that we can also retrieve data for PAU, for example, right? So at this point we do not select anything. We just say okay, only folder. We press OK. And there we go, it's ready to go. And press OK. Okay, so this MC5 leaks driver already is ready to be used. We press OK. And okay, so now the next step. The next step is again going back to the presentation. So now we will work with the Microsoft Excel. So just general idea, the core idea of this presentation also is the fact that in the end we want to come up with an easy, quite simple but meantime robust system like Microsoft Excel, because it has quite powerful interface, quite easy to use pivot charts, graphs, tables. We can do lots of calculations there. So we will be enjoying full functionality of Microsoft Excel. So all we do here is just to make a trick, to do some trick, this limitation of 1 million data rows in Excel. Once we overcome that, we will be enjoying the full functionality of Microsoft Excel. So now it's time to go to our actual example. This is just for the illustration. So let's create a blank new worksheet, a new workbook, and from here we already can create a pivot table. Like we say, okay, create a pivot table and use an external data source, right? But because we didn't import that data source within this workbook, simply that connection is not available, right? It is not available yet. That's why we need to first of all specify which data connection we are using on created on this machine, and after that it will serve as a source data for our pivot table. One question that might rise, okay, why aren't we using this from text option, right? We have, instead of from other sources and using those drivers, why aren't we using this from text, right? Well, we could use, but the problem is that this option is not for dealing with big data actually. See, let me show. We simply cannot use this option because actually in this GPCSV we already have a couple of millions, as far as I know, rows, and we can go ahead and say, okay, let's go directly, like importing from text, and it will import, right? But the thing is that it will import only the first 1 million rows of data. The rest will be ignored, won't be imported, and this is not the thing that we want to do, because we want to keep our we want to follow the data integrity principle, right? In this case, even if I press finish, okay, it will finalize, it will import, but it will import only the first 1 million. Alright, so just a couple of more seconds and see what it says. Okay, yes, it says, okay, I imported only the first one, but there is no enough room to store all the data on this one spreadsheet, so we don't want to do that. And this is the reason why we have to deal with that driver that we created. So for this reason, again, we go under data from other sources and we select from data connection wizard. This is the place where our ODBS DSN is already located, and once we press next, here we go. This is the data connection that we created, MC5 leaks. So then we press next. Here again, we don't have to specify any tables, right? We only need to specify only this folder where those CSV files are located, right? Press next. I think all good. Okay, let's just give a more meaningful name for this connection file, MC5 leaks again, I guess, and Excel for big data OD, so it's okay, I guess. So, and here we go. Once I press finish, we can specify any of those. Again, it is just optional, we can even ignore that, but I'm pressing OK. And next we will the Microsoft Excel will ask how we are going to use this connection in a table, in a pivot table, or in a pivot chart and pivot table report. So in this case, let's select pivot table. Let it be in A1, for example, and here we go. Once I press OK, the a new pivot table will be created, and actual data from that huge CSV file will be read. Please pay attention to these numbers. These are actually the rows that are being currently read by the driver, right? And here we go. So our pivot table is created, and it could have many millions of rows, right? It could have many huge information in that, and here we go. So we don't have to worry about those millions limitation from Excel. And I mean, the rest is just a matter of technique, how we arrange our pivot table to land on this final, in this example. But for now, let's proceed further and say, okay, for now I just want to calculate, I mean, simply just the number of rows, right? Count users, right? And here we go, as we see. Okay, so it is 2.5 million, right? So this is for GPS. I guess it currently has over 2 million data rows, and this is only for a short period of time. This is only for 1 month, actually, because all those are distinct users from MC5, so it makes a total sense for GP. Okay, then just let's see how it is arranged. Okay, bronze 1. So we need to arrange now our pivot table. So these are our league names. So I'm putting those here, right? So all good. Bronze 2, etc. These are our count user, right? How many of those users are in, say, bronze 1, then in bronze 2, etc. leagues, right? quite interesting. For example, in bronze 2 we have 1 million, over 1 million users. Okay, and now we need to also calculate the average leak points actually, right? So the problem with the current data is that we should remember that we are dealing with text file, right? So let me go ahead and let's calculate the average score per each user within those, say, bronze 1, bronze 2, etc. leaks, right? Because this is the final result what we want to see, right? And if we go ahead and do that, simply we cannot do that. And what's the problem here, right? Why is that? Again, because we are dealing with text file, although the numbers are shown as numbers, right? But actually those numbers stored in our database are stored as text. That's why we cannot do any calculations with those numbers. So actually these are not numbers. Those are not stored as numbers. So to overcome this little issue, we need to go further with our data connection and do little bit tricks under the connection itself, right? So we go selecting, I mean, it is not important whether you select here or here because we have one connection, this one. So this is the connection that we created, and we will need to do some SQL tricks with our actually connection string. By default it says, okay, select all from beard, etc, etc. This file, this is our database file actually. So we need to change this, and going ahead and pressing edit query. Okay, I'm closing this. See, now the trick is with this edit query button is that it populates all the fields, right? So now I don't have to I know all the fields, right? So for this example we need to convert non-numeric values into numeric values, and meantime I will rename those fields in a way. So these are the fields. This is the first field saying GP user. It is okay, we don't want to make it as a number, so it still should be a string. Just I am giving it a meaningful name. Let it be UDID, right? So the next one is league name, which is still okay, it is a name and it should be a string. Just renaming it as that it will just a league, right? Next field is our this one, so average score. So this is the exact field that we want to convert and meantime rename. So we will be using quite simple conversion functions, which are default, which are built-in functions in JetEngine. This is the JetEngine is just the basic driver for Microsoft Access. So there we have I guess C double. So that means that whatever is stored in this field, take that field, and if it is number but stored as text, convert it into numeric. And C double stands for convert to double, right? Double is more secure, so we won't be using we won't be losing any data. And meantime I'm renaming it as, say, league points, right? This is okay. So the rest is just max, min. Actually we won't be using it actually for retrieving this maximum and minimum. We will be using another technique, purely statistical technique to retrieve the actual minimum and maximum, because those minimums and maximums are simply not relevant for our example. So I'll turn it to it later. So for now, I guess all good to go. And once I press OK, all the data previously from the previous query will be dropped, and the new query will be run, and new data connection will be established, and new data will be collected from our database. So I press OK. Yes, it just asks for confirmation, saying that the previous one will no longer will be identical. Okay, I press OK. Here we go. So we changed our query, and it starts running again and reading the source file. As you see, yes, it is quite fast. It is just super efficient, super fast. The trick is that this technique, this Microsoft pivot tables especially, those are super fast, because those deal with the memory, right? So every time you run a query, you arrange your pivot table, you don't deal with the actual database. All information is loaded into the memory. That's why it is so fast. That's why it is super efficient to deal with that kind of technique. So here we go. It read everything, and okay. So now we have more friendly names, and most importantly, leak points now are converted into numeric values instead of being text. So still it is bronze 1, etc. It's okay. Let's go ahead and again count UDID. It's still okay. And leak points, right? And here we go. See, by default it sees that the numbers are actually numbers, and it can do numerical calculations with them. So that's why it does arithmetic calculation with that. So we need the average of the leak points per user within those bronze 1, etc., within each leak. So I think it's okay. So instead of sum makes no sense in this case, we will be calculating the average. And here we go. So for our example, we don't need actually the squads, right? We will be using only the solo leaks, just filtering out. Okay, here we go. So these are the final results. So just let's compare with our original one whether we are doing everything correctly or not. I guess are yes, right? The numbers all good, right? So in average, in bronze 1 league, for example, we have this many, let's say 180,000 players, unique players, and on average those players had 1,292 league points, right? This is the average, right? So let's go again in our outline. So we finalize this Excel data connection pivot table. More on a SQL statement, we already did that, right? So now let's go to our actual analysis itself, right? So what we will be doing now, from now on, as you see on this chart, we have the maximum, minimum, and the average per each league, right? So we need to arrange the data pivot table so that we can do the analysis. Just this information, it is not enough. This is just a number. So for this reason, we will need, as I said, minimum and maximum caps. And for this reason, we will be using another field, the same field but another calculation for the same field. And I guess but okay, we will need standard deviation, right? So for one variable we have average, we have standard deviation, and after that we will be calculating the representative minimum and representative maximum of that variable caps, right? Well, actually, calculating standard deviation on a grouped data, especially for a couple of million rows, actually it is a complicated thing, but not for this case, because again we are dealing with the super fast pivot tables. So here we go, we already have the standard deviation, so average and standard deviation. So all we need to do next, we will put the average and add one standard deviation, and that will give 90% of confidence. Okay, we could have gone with two standard deviation for 95% confidence, but I think for this case even 1 sigma is more than enough, right? I mean, just remember statistics 1 on 101, right? So that's why we will be going only with only with one standard deviation instead of two standard deviations, right? Because again, 90% confidence, I think for this case is more than enough. So what we will do next, we will create the same table using the standard deviation, and we will be using built-in template that I already created, the template for this minimum and maximum chart, and here we go. We will the analysis is ready. So just instead of doing that right now, so I guess we can simply look through this chart, which is already ready to go. Just in this chart already I did the same calculation, so I took the average, then I added the one standard deviation and ended up with this number. Then the minimum, we subtract the one standard deviation, and we end up with maximum column, minimum column, and average column. And then we use the standard chart which exists under the charts. It is called I guess stock chart, right? You use that stock type chart, stock chart type, and here we go. So the final conclusions for this particular example. As I said, our initial question was quite simple. Should we use leagues like these leagues, bronze 3, 2, etc., for our matchmaking algorithm? So putting differently, is league actually a good indicator for a player's skill, so that players will be matched based on their leagues and they don't feel like two powerful people are being matched with two unpowerful people or not? So I think it is quite obvious, right? The answer is quite obvious. For example, let me give you just, for example, a player with 6,000 league points can be either in silver 2, either in silver 1, either in gold 3, or in gold 2 leagues. So can we tell that these leagues are good indicator, or can we tell that based only on the league names we can differentiate between players efficiently? I guess the answer is obvious, right? So it is not. So that's why after we found this result, after we found these results from the database, we said, okay, bronze, actually the leagues are not good indicator, are not a good is not a good variable to be used in our matchmaking system, and instead of using league names we will be using, say, league points for this particular case. So this much about dealing with big data using Beard and Microsoft Excel. In our next example we will be using a little bit more advanced technique for also retrieving the PAU data, not only just overall users, but also particularly for PAU. And for that report and for that data retrieval we will be using a little bit more tricks on Beard and retrieve and data reporting via ODBase connections and using SQL statement like using joins in order to retrieve the data only for PAU. So this much about this video, and thanks for